Warrior One, or Virabhadrasana 1, is one of yoga's foundational poses. But getting the correct alignment for your body can be a little bit tricky. So let's break it down.
Starting in mountain pose. Step the left foot back in a sagittal plane of motion, around 3.5 to 4 feet, depending on the length of your legs. I always suggest this as a rough guide, and once in the pose, adjust alignment to suit your body. So working from the ground up, foot placement is crucial to the overall appearance of the pose. For example, if your back foot is externally rotated, this would create hip abduction. For Warrior One, the back hip should be in hip extension. Both hips in alignment, forward facing. So the back foot needs to be internally rotated to around 45 degrees, with the ankle in dorsiflexion. The front foot is facing straight forward, dorsiflexion at the ankle. Forward flexion at the front knee and hip joint, with the knee stacked above the ankle joint. The back hip is extended and adducted, with the pelvis rotated to the front. The front heel and back arch of the feet should be in alignment. However, if the hips are tight, then a wider base of support gives more space to align the hips to the front and provides stability. Rotate the chest forward so the shoulders are stacked above the hips. The spine is in extension to create a gentle back bend. The amount of rotation needed in the spine depends on how articulate the SI joint and hip joints are. The less mobile the lower limbs are, the more rotation is needed in the spine to orient the chest forward. Raise the arms overhead by abduction and upward rotation of the scapula. Traditionally, hands in prayer position or hands shoulder width apart if tight in the shoulders and upper back. Depress the scapula to stabilise the shoulders. Warrior One is classed as an asymmetrical, standing, backward bending, balancing pose. Avoid pushing the front knee too far into flexion beyond the ankle joint, creating too much pressure in the knee by overloading the joint. Keep the knee in alignment with the centre of the foot. Avoid allowing the hips to rotate outward, creating abduction of the back hip. We remain in the pose for around 5 breaths to develop strength in the quadriceps, glutes and hamstrings, the abdominals and musculature of the back, and the muscles of the shoulder girdle and arms. To improve balance, core strength and stamina. To develop flexibility in the hip flexors and ankles. To expand the chest and lungs to facilitate better breathing and circulation. It's a great hip opener, which is good for antidote for clients who sit at a desk all day. It can be therapeutic for those who suffer with sciatica, and it develops willpower and mental focus. Repeat on both sides.
Warrior Two, or Virabhadrasana 2. As the name suggests, it's a really strong and powerful pose. Unlike Warrior One, which is performed in the sagittal plane, for Warrior Two, we move through the transverse plane into the frontal plane.
Start in mountain pose. Step the left leg sideways so that the feet are 3.5 to 4 feet apart. Again, this will depend on the length of your legs. Yoga is about listening to your body and making adjustments, finding that sweet spot where you're entering a challenge but without straining. The right foot faces straight forward, pointing to the end of the mat. Dorsiflexion at the ankle. The left foot is turned out at 90 degrees, dorsiflexion at the ankle, supination at the heel and pronation at the forefoot. Forward flexion at the front knee joint. Flexion and abduction at the front hip. The back hip is in extension and abduction, and the back knee in extension. Contract the quadriceps and glutes to maintain stability and keep the front knee in alignment. The heels of both feet are in alignment with one another, pressing into the outer edge of the back foot to keep it grounded and elevating the arch of the foot away from the floor. Keeping the pelvis in the frontal plane with the hips open. Stack the shoulders directly above the hips so the trunk of the body is in an upright position with the spine in neutral. Slight rotation of the chest to orient to the side. Abduction of the scapula and shoulders to raise the arms in alignment with the shoulders. Pronate the forearms, palms down, and rotate the head to face the front arm. Fix your eye gaze to your fingertips. Avoid allowing the front knee to drift to either side, keeping the centre of the kneecap in alignment with the centre of the ankle. Avoid leaning the trunk of the body over toward the front thigh. The shoulders should be aligned directly over your pelvis. Avoid any anterior tilt in the pelvis, keeping the spine in a neutral position. We hold this pose for around 5 breaths. Warrior Two is classed as an asymmetrical standing pose, which develops strength in the glutes, quadriceps, hamstrings and ankles, whilst increasing flexibility in the hips and adductors. It opens the chest and shoulders, improving breathing capacity and increasing circulation throughout the entire body. It is known to be therapeutic for sciatica and osteoporosis, stimulating the digestive system and relieving back pain. It also increases your ability to concentrate as you focus your eye gaze. Repeat on the other side.
Warrior 3 or Virabhadrasana 3 is a more intermediate yoga asana, as it involves balancing your entire body weight on a single leg. It takes a deceptive amount of total body strength to hold the trunk of the body in a prone position parallel to the ground whilst working against gravity.
Start in mountain pose. Shift the body weight into the right leg. Inhaling, lift the arms overhead by upwardly rotating, abducting and elevating the scapula. Exhale and hinge forward from the hips, moving in a sagittal plane. Elevating the left leg up behind and simultaneously lowering the trunk of the body, keeping the arms overhead until the torso and lifted leg are parallel to the floor. The standing leg is in hip flexion and adduction, knee extension and ankle dorsiflexion, while the lifted leg is in neutral hip extension and rotation, knee extension and ankle dorsiflexion. The spine is in axial extension. Elongate the body from fingertips to the left heel, engaging all the muscles of the posterior chain, making one straight line through the back body. Draw the trapezius downward away from the ears, depressing the scapula and stabilising the shoulder girdle. Hold for around 5 breaths and repeat on the other leg. Maintain eye gaze at a point on the floor for balance. Avoid tilting the pelvis so that the hips are not aligned. Keep the neck in neutral position to avoid compressing the cervical spine. Try to avoid locking out the knee joint on the standing leg, as this can reduce the joint's ability to stabilise and compress the joint. Warrior 3 is an asymmetrical standing balance pose that creates stability in the whole body. It strengthens the glutes and hamstrings and all the muscles of the posterior chain. It develops core strength and stamina. It strengthens the small stabilising muscles in the feet and ankles. It improves a sense of balance and core stability. It improves body awareness, proprioception and posture. It enhances the ability to concentrate, keeping the mind calm and focused. It is known to be therapeutic for strengthening the digestive system.
To add a cardio element to our practice, we can start to link these poses together in a sequence or flow. By adding more movement as we transition from one pose to the next, it makes the practice more dynamic and fun, and we can even start to add other variations of the pose into the sequence.
Start in mountain pose. Step the left leg back into warrior one. Clasp the hands behind the back and hinge forward into humble warrior. This variation provides a deep stretch for the hip, hamstrings and adductors of the front leg, the hip flexors of the back leg, and really opens up the shoulders and chest for better posture. Rise up into high warrior lunge. This variation adds a balance challenge as the back heel is elevated. Transition into warrior three pose. Open into warrior two pose. Elevate the right arm and C-shape the spine into lateral flexion for reverse warrior. Transition back to mountain pose and repeat the sequence on the other side.
So as you can see, the warrior pose gives us total body integration with a vast amount of variety and adaptations. It's functional yet therapeutic and extremely versatile. We can use this posture across a broad spectrum of exercise disciplines. It doesn't have to be confined to a yoga studio. Try giving it to your PT client to add a bit of diversity and spice things up, or a conditioning class. Yoga is a fantastic way of conditioning your entire body and developing resilience. It's a really complementary practice for all other forms of exercise, and the benefits are infinite. So hopefully this video will have given you the tools to feel more confident in delivering this type of practice to your clients and members, or maybe inspired you into exploring the wonderful world of yoga for your own well-being.